All right, we're back for episode 93, or as we
93.
like to call it, almost 100.
Right. We round up
Yeah.
in this household.
Oh, so Jason, I saw you had a podcast or actual play out there.
Yes, yeah, I was gonna say that got released this past week. We kind of streamed it to Twitch, even though it wasn't live. We recorded it the week before
Right, right.
or 2 weeks before. I can't really remember, but yeah, it was just the first part of the Starfinder version of what the two sessions that I ran. So it's
Cool.
exciting. I didn't watch it. Well, that's not true. I watched it for about like 3 minutes,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
I
yeah.
had to turn it off because I don't know if I like listening to the sound of my own voice that much.
Yeah.
Um, Only in like dire emergencies, or if I'm just sort of like if I was doing a voice the whole time. But um, yeah, it was fun. And also, when I tuned in, I was in a I was there was a time when I had to like write some stuff down, so I wasn't looking at the camera that much or towards the camera that much. I was like down here, and
Right.
that was like, oh, it looks bad. Oh no, I'm terrible at this, so I had to turn it off.
That was just a demo of Foundry for Starfinder. Is that kind of what it
That's
was
right.
about?
So, I mean, it was because Foundry is now putting out all of the society scenarios
Right.
in their sort of enhanced way, right? They do the map ups, they do up the maps a little bit, and they have all the adventure stuff sort of programmed in. And I think for the Pathfinder one, I had to just run a macro and say, oh, this is how many people have how many levels, and it did the stuff that it needs to do to make sure that it's got the right number of challenge points, right? And Yeah, it was all great. It's all automated, and I mean, I love Foundry. I love running it in it,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was kind of neat to see a bunch of other folks work on Starfinder in
Yes,
that
it's
too.
true.
So, because you don't work on Starfinder anymore, even though you used to.
That's right. Yeah. No, yeah, it was Jenny and Dustin. It was everybody. It was like everybody there was Starfinder. Jenny, Dustin, Jessica, and Saul. They all work on the Starfinder stuff in one way or the other.
So cool. Anyway,
Yeah,
so how's your week been besides that?
it's been okay. Yeah, I think it's been good. How about you?
Nice. It's been okay. I've gotten back into I used to referee soccer before all my surgeries and stuff, and so just this
Hmm.
past couple weeks I've been actually training so I can go back and referee. And then I've done now like 5 games. Slowly
Great.
working back up to it. Yeah, so it's kind of fun to do.
What
It's
what what age group is this soccer for?
well, I did a bunch of youth. I
Mhm,
generally like to do like under 13 to under 19, so older kids, what we call them. But
mhm.
also high school. So I did a high school game yesterday and I have
Okay,
3 high school games I'll do this week. Kind of
great. Huh?
yeah, it's exercise for me. I don't like to run, but I should
Yeah,
get the exercise. And when I referee, I run 2 to 5 miles depending on what I'm doing
sure, yeah.
and don't notice it. So works out pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta keep up with the ball, of
Yes.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the players. That's the big
there's some
thing.
players,
Oh
yeah.
man, this on Saturday I had it was a real challenging one for me and my knee's a little stiff right now today. I was going to do
I
another
get it.
game today and I thought I need to take it easy.
That's smart, that's smart. I did a lot of walking this weekend, and I'm a little wiped out from that.
But
Yeah.
the weather's going to be nice this week compared to all the raininess we had last week.
Sure, yeah, a lot of rain. I loved it. It's supposed to rain maybe tomorrow for us, but then
Mhm.
mostly nice for the rest of the week, which is good. Because it's been I don't know, it's been nice. Good to go for those like post dinner walks before the
Mhm.
sun sets.
Yeah.
Push the dog around
Good.
and the stroller we out of him now. So
Oh, wow, that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't need it, but he's it's good to get him
He
so we can all
enjoys
walk
it.
as a family. Yeah, he
Yeah.
enjoys it. He's fine in
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And otherwise he's a little slow.
Yeah, yeah, my dog, he's slow only because he likes to smell everything.
Oh
But he is
yeah.
getting old. I mean, he's
Yeah.
almost, he'll be 14 in December.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, for this episode, almost 100 now, um,
Hmm.
we would talk about, something that happened in our game last week.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, this happened this past Tuesday, and we were playing through. I don't know if we've mentioned this, but we're playing through to Defy the Dragon. Um, and yeah, I've got my pistol dancer, and I was able to play again. So we jumped in, and nearly the beginning there, two of us were taken, not basically out of a fight. Not so much like killed, right? You didn't kill us, but you did take us
Right.
out of the fight. Essentially, we were just at that point just punching bags for your
Yeah, and
buddies.
it actually made it quite challenging because,
Yeah.
to Defy the Dragons is designed for 4 players, which we
Hmm.
had,
Hmm.
and there's an effect there, which I I don't know if you knew what happened. Do you know what happened?
Not exactly. Something scared us. That's all I know.
Yeah, so and this is gonna be a spoiler for anybody who hasn't played it yet,
Sure.
I'll just
Yeah.
say.
Okay.
So, there the main bad guy, which was on a
Hmm.
different level,
Right.
right, could see through the mech that was there,
Oh.
and he
Okay.
could project this basically, it's kinda like a fearsome presence. It's a little bit different. It's a,
Hmm. Okay.
uh, spell-like ability thing that would cause panic if you failed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yes.
so that's and it was panic for a minute.
Yeah. Which is more than a whole fight.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have many fights go more than 3 rounds, 4
Yeah.
rounds, and
I mean, that's generally how it
so
works.
yes. So, anyway, wasn't a lot of fun for, our players that were panicked, and so one of the things I thought we would talk about are kind of how these things work in Starfinder. There's a lot of
Hmm.
what we call save or suck kind of, uh, spells,
Effects. Yeah.
effects that you can have there. But then there's also ways to mitigate some of these, which some, s well,
We
you and or Scott had something too. It's
Yeah,
just
technically Scott
yeah.
had the ability to take that off of people, but he was one of the ones
Yes,
who was panicked, so
right, right,
nothing.
but he also had a reroll that he could do too, so he
He did?
failed that.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, that on the will save, right, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, anyway, so I thought we would first of all, we could talk about some of these things, some of the conditions here, and then
Mhm.
maybe some of the tools to mitigate them, and then you had suggested maybe some ways to improve on this pending any major changes that might come, with
Exactly, yeah.
Starfinder 2.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, because that's the thing that, like, at least Pathfinder 2nd edition has moved away from. There's not a lot of those conditions that take you basically out,
Mm,
or anything like being turned to stone permanently takes
right,
a couple rounds to do. It's not just one saving throw and then you're out
right,
of it. And that's just a artifact of old 3.5 design. I'm sure even older D&D design. That's where sometimes something happens bad to you, and it's kind of wasn't the whole end of the whole night for us because we got to have another
right.
continue on adventure. Did we have another fight that night even?
There was,
Yeah, we went.
well, it was a
Yeah, it
there's
was a
another
quick one.
smaller fight, and then, like, an
Yeah,
encounter that could have been a big fight.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Right, right,
No, no. Yeah, I was trying. But there was that other fight that was technically harder. I think CR wise maybe, but
right,
was actually way easier because all four of us were up and firing and on all
exactly,
cylinders. Yeah.
exactly. So anyway, yeah, I was just thinking, about what type of conditions there are that are kind of really sucky like this, and
Hmm.
um, not all of them are super bad, but at higher level, especially, you can mitigate some of these. Like if you're
Right.
blinded, for example, that's something that makes it really hard to find the enemy, and then
Yeah.
to gives you a mischance, even if you can locate them. But at
True. True.
higher levels, there's ways to kind of get around that with blind sight would be the
Hmm.
thing blind sense can help you find it, but blind sight could help you see it. And there's a lot of classes have abilities to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Blind fight, and then when you have to you can get the reroll that mischance.
right,
Yeah, the thing about blinded is at least it doesn't necessarily take away your agency or your
right,
ability to do
right,
anything during a turn. So you can still feel your way around, and maybe you'll get lucky and affect continue to affect the bad guys in some way. So
mhm,
that one's like high mid to high tier, right? Of things that are not so fun.
Right. But I think a lot of people, because invisibility becomes a bigger issue as you get
Mm,
to higher level, so people start thinking of how can I kind of deal with invisible things or if I'm blinded, and so they have some mitigation there.
yeah,
Confused is another one that can take away your agency for a while.
yeah.
You roll a D100 and you could either do nothing, you could babble, you could attack something, you could hurt yourself. So there's lots of different
Hmm.
things there. Um, and that can be tough. We've
Yeah.
had at a higher level, we had like several people confused, and if half your
Ooh.
party's confused, that makes it challenging as well.
Indeed, indeed. One thing that I know that I think people forget about when they're running confusion is that a confused creature attacks the last thing that attacked it.
Yes, right,
So, in a way, like, there's a certain amount of like, oh, well, as you're running as a GM and you just want to keep that confusion kind of going, you shouldn't attack them, right? You should just let
right,
them be. And in a way, that sort of they're not participating in the fight both directions, right? They're not being attacked and they're not attacking essentially. Or they might get the chance to act normally, but like, again, I'm just gonna point out, we were panicked, we were fleeing, and you were still shooting at us. So we were just kind of taking them, which was actually probably though a good thing because there were like four of these creatures, and if four of them had focused on two of the players, you would have wiped
right.
us out. So I'm not complaining. I'm not saying it was a bad call on your part. I was just saying like, oh,
Oh yeah,
this is particularly why this condition kind of sucks.
yeah, and I'll get we'll talk about that explicitly. So, panicked, you drop everything you're holding and flee at top speed
Hmm.
along a random path away from the source of your fear, as well as any other dangers you encounter. And
Mm,
I think this is important because
right.
you fled from a source, then other dangers were following you.
True. Yeah.
You can't take any actions. You get -2 to ability checks, savings throws, skill checks. If you're cornered, you cower and don't attack. And cower is actually another effect,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You are frozen with fear. You are flat footed and take no actions.
Yeah. It's
So
rough.
if you get cornered now, in our what we had here is basically you never got trapped in a spot unless you, I guess, kind of put yourself in there. So
Well,
you
I
could
mean,
keep
eventually you're
running
gonna.
away.
Yeah. 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 I mean, if you're running away from something, yeah, you could get boxed in. Not too difficult to get sort of jammed into a corner. But yeah, my character just sort of tootled around and just tried to. I did a little metagaming. I'm gonna run back towards my friends
Right,
instead of
right,
away
right,
from them,
right.
and then maybe get back closer back to my weapons because my character is nothing without weapons, right? I
Yes,
dropped
the fact that
both
you
my
had to
guns,
drop them was tough. Yeah, yeah,
and always have 2 guns, and I dropped both of them. I've been spending all of my money on these guns, so I don't really have anything else on my character, so that's basically my character, which is rough. It's rough.
now kind of a lesser version of panic is frightened. So you flee from the source of your fear as best you can.
Mhm.
Uh, if you're unable to flee, then you fight.
Right.
But you don't drop everything,
Yeah.
right? So that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of a
yeah,
nice
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And then you don't cower, right? So that's
Right.
a little bit easier. And that's the frightened is usually what you get from a fearsome presence,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
From a dragon or something that has something like that. So it's rough. And I've had a character flee for an operative that just fleed miles, and by the time the encounter's done,
Miles. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So okay, I guess we didn't do anything. So those are kind of rough, and I was saying, dazed is another one. If
Mm,
you're
yeah.
dazed, you can't do anything.
Anytime you lose all of your actions, it's bad.
Mhm.
It's rough.
Now, one of them that's kind of rough, even though you can do things, is if you get grappled, pinned, and or swallowed whole.
Mm.
Because oftentimes, depending on the nature of your character, you can't use certain weapons and abilities
Right.
when
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
stuck
yeah.
in, and you can only try to escape or try to, if you have a way, cut yourself out if you're swallowed whole. But for a low strength character that doesn't use
Mhm.
melee attacks, that can be very debilitating. That's
Oh,
swallowed
yeah,
whole
yeah,
is
yeah.
one that I've seen really shut down. Well,
Oh, yeah,
um,
yeah. If you're the wrong kind of character, yeah, you said, you just get stuck there, and you just end up taking damage over time.
Right, and that would be basically when you're pinned, right? You can't
Mhm.
move and you're flat-footed and get lots of negatives. Paralyzed is something similar to dazed, or another one stunned. Basically, you're kind of frozen in place and you're unable to do anything. Stunned, you drop everything, so similar to
Right.
paralyzed, but you don't panic, but you don't run away.
Right.
Uh, and then kind of a lesser one of these, I'll say, is staggered, where you can only do one thing.
One
So
thing,
here
and
you
then
still have agency, but you either can move or attack. You
attack.
can't
Yeah.
do. Yeah. So those are some of the things that I think are pretty rough on
Hmm.
players when they encounter them. Um, but there are ways to mitigate them as well if you're a
Yeah.
player.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. If you have certain, what is it, certain spells or certain sort of envoy abilities can basically shut down conditions, or at least temporarily suppress them.
Hmm.
And then, obviously stuff like that when the fight is over. Yeah, you can let it run its course. It's not going to mean much. But they're very, specific, and you kind of need to know that you're going into a certain type of encounter to know
Right.
to, right, if you don't have that spell prepared, or if whatever. uh an envoy, I guess, can probably always do it. I'm not really sure if that's how the ability works, but um I think there's some mystic stuff too. But if you don't
Hmm.
have it ready, if you don't have that kind of character class in your party, well, you know what
Right.
else can you do? That's my question.
Well, one of the things, and so I have a mechanic and a vanguard higher
Hmm.
levels, and both of them have some things that can do with this. The mechanic, if your exocortex, has this neural
Oh
shunt
yeah.
ability, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
where
Hmm.
if you fail a saving throw against something that's mind affecting, you can instead shunt the effects to your neurocortex,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So you lose some things from that, but basically enables you to not be affected, which helps them quite a bit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Oh, definitely.
And the Vanguard has something called entropic veil. Um, Basically, it allows you to um, make another save as a reaction by spending
Mm,
entropy points. So if you have some
sure.
stacked up, but this is
Yeah.
only against spells or spell like abilities. So
Okay.
certain other things that don't have an SU or SP modifier, right, then
Yeah.
won't be affected by that. And there's some feats, that can
Yeah.
help you with this. Basically, getting you rerolls.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. Like, I mean, it's something you can think if you're getting up in high levels, because these effects do come into play more often at the
Right.
higher levels than at the lower levels, which is good. But yeah, if you're thinking like, oh, my will save is really bad, you should think about getting Iron Will. You should think about getting a Ring of Resistance, right? That'll boost
Right.
your will up a little bit if it's your lowest. Um, Stuff like that. Yeah, they eventually give you the bonuses and the rerolls that might help you not suck.
Yeah, I would say, especially like anytime I play a melee class character, typically they have lower will, and when they're when they're un, when they get hit by something mind affected, it
Mhm.
can either shut down everything they do, or they can be a hazard to the party.
Sure, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
Iron Will and improved Iron Will. Iron Will gives you the +2, and improved Iron Will gets you the reroll.
Right.
Those are two things I typically will take, especially if I have a soldier. You get lots of extra feats, so those are
Yeah, yeah.
things that I'll usually take. Um, but other classes I don't as much, and I do count on the envoy in particular to have don't quit uh, improvisation that basically, as it gets to higher level, allows you to mitigate more and more different conditions.
Yeah. I just found something, by the way. I was thinking of if I could remember something, but there is a level 12 item that's in the armory called the Mantle of Willpower.
Yes, yes.
Which basically gives you some bonuses against mind affecting effects. And then by taking, well, here's the thing: you need to be able to have a standard action. But if you can take a standard action, spend a resolve point, you can end all mind affecting effects you are currently suffering from. But if you don't, okay. Oh, you can just still do it at the start of your turn. but then you're stunned. Okay. Basically, so you still lose a turn, but at least you're not losing 4, 5, 6 turns.
Right. Yeah, so there's other things, for we've been talking about mind affecting. One of my favorite
Yeah.
things is a cloak of diffraction, which gives
Mhm.
you additional rerolls against area effect damage. So
Right.
basically, if
Yeah,
you have
that's good.
a poor reflex save type of thing. Um, there's other things like that. Um, but what I think is really important at low levels, you're not going to run into this stuff a lot.
Yeah.
But I would say at 10th level and above, every individual character should have a way to mitigate something on themselves, and ideally have there should be in the party one character that can help mitigate others as well. I think
Yeah.
just for general balance, if you have control over that, because the bad guys are going to have better tools, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these are
Fine.
rough things.
Next time we get paid and to defy the dragon, I'll buy something for my
Yeah.
character to help them
Uh,
not
well,
have these problems.
yeah, but you don't get paid into.
Well, then
It's
I don't know. Whatever things we
yeah,
get,
yeah, 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 yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure. I'm sure you'll throw something in there for us.
Something happens.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of how things are set up. And
Yeah.
in Pathfinder Second Edition, it's quite a bit different though for these sorts of things. You want to talk about that for a bit?
Well, yeah, there's some things too. Like a lot of that stuff is only the worst thing that happens to you on a critical failure on a save, right?
Right.
You still get to on a failure, something bad happens to you, but it's not. It doesn't end your turn. It's not going to shut you down completely for the most part. I don't know if I can think of anything that is completely uh, 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 that bad. Again, it would probably be at higher levels because there's more opportunities for players to have spells and other abilities to shut that down for other people. Um, I'm trying to think of like frightened. There's no panicked condition. First of all, right? It's
Right.
just higher levels of frightened. Just give her more numerical penalties.
And they wear off each round too, right? They
That's true. Yeah,
decrease,
exactly.
which is
Yeah.
one of the things I really like a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there are I think there are tiny instances where it says like it doesn't decrease if your XYZ something is happening, but if there's a real specific rider, right? That
Right.
that makes it so that it doesn't go down. But for the most part, it's gonna go down. It's gonna tick down. Um, I mean, you've got most of what you've got too are like numerical penalties, even like sickened, which is something I think is in
Yeah.
like Pathfinder, Starfinder,
Yeah.
Pathfinder First Edition, right? Which is bad. It was always like you can't attack, you can only move. I think that was basically what that is. Nauseated
Well,
or sickened, one of those two. I can't remember
yeah.
which one's the worst
Nauseated,
one.
I think, is worse. Second just gives you a -2s.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Nauseated is quite a bit
yeah.
worse. Yeah.
So there's that stuff which is they're like those are bad penalties to have in even Pathfinder Second Edition. You get the -2 or whatever, but you can do things to try to mitigate them. Right? You can retch, which is a fun
Yes.
Pathfinder
Yeah.
Second Edition thing to stop from being sickened.
Mhm.
Um, even like but still you can still get blinded, right? That you can still. I'm pretty sure there is still paralysis. But this is sort of what brings me to the other point that I was going to say about house rules. I think some of that real lockdown stuff, um, you every character gets to have another saving throw at the
Right.
end of their turn to just sort
Yeah.
of stop it. So you can be like, well, that sucked. I failed that save and or I critically failed it. I'm paralyzed for like a while. Um, and then but at the end of my turn, I can try again.
Right.
And that's the times that maybe at this point I want to get out of this. I'll use a hero point to re-roll that and make it better if I
Right.
fail that again. Right? You have those opportunities, and I think stuff like that doesn't last as long as like a minute, right? It's either just like a couple
Right.
rounds or even because I think Pathfinder Second Edition does lean into the fact that like we know a fight is only going to last 3 to 4
Right.
rounds, right? I mean that's just the way things go.
Yeah, I think, well, panicked doesn't have a defined length, I don't think. It's just this the author of this one, I think, said it panicked him for 1 minute.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes conditions don't have those defined links, and
yeah,
they need to be defined in the thing that happens.
yeah.
So, if like, yeah. So that you can borrow some of that for house rules for
I
these
like that,
worst
yeah.
offenders, in games like Starfinder or Pathfinder First Edition, you can say, "Oh, at the end of every turn, if this thing lasts a minute, you can say at the end of every turn, you get to make a saving throw again, and maybe you'll break out of it. Maybe that sort of you want to be these heroes. You're not just sort of
Right.
like I got spooked once and I spend the whole fight in the corner, right? Well, when I got people shooting at me or coming at me, maybe I well up this sort of reserve of courage within me and break free of the thing, and then I can start
Right.
punching or whatever. So that's one way to do it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that would be my main one to say, right?
Yeah. It actually reminds me. I was thinking of another situation in Dead Sons. I
Mm.
presume you're familiar with Dead
Oh
Sons
yeah,
Adventure Path.
sure.
Do you remember? I think it's book 3. There's this big tall tower, and there's this plant-like creature wrapped around it, and it kind of has
Mm.
this. Um, anyway, Ron's character.
Sure,
Um,
yeah.
they had a siren effect that it brought you up closer to it. He
Oh,
failed
right,
for
yeah.
that, and then when you get within a certain range, then it fascinates you, and he failed for the same for that. So he went all the way up there, up close, and it's just like it's like trying to trap you. Then it can go eat you.
Right.
It's kind of thing. And it's like, oh man, remember that? I remember that one. He was just, and he was our envoy again. So
Ah,
he
yeah,
gets sucked in, and nothing we could do. Um, but yeah, no, I like having a save for the anything that removes your agency like that. Having a
yeah.
save at the end of your turn where you've been affected by it, I think sounds like a very
Sh
reasonable house rule.
Yeah, because I mean, maybe the chances are that you have a terrible will save, and it's gonna end up lasting as long as it lasts because you can never make that save.
Right,
But, the dice are the dice, and you always have a chance to snap out of it. Alternatively, you can always this might be less of a house rule and just more of a if another player is like, "Oh, I'm not an envoy. I don't have the ability to snap people out of these, or I'm not a mystic. I don't have that spell or whatever. Can I go up to this person,
right,
to my ally, and if they're I don't know, again, cowering or whatever, and kind of like, I'll, I'll, I'm there and I'll pick them up and be like, hey, you got to snap out of it. Give them the old moonstruck, and then maybe that'll give them a save or the bonus
right,
or something
right,
like
right. Or
that,
throw
right?
water in their face or something
Throw
like
water in their
that.
face, yeah. Or yeah, if
Yeah,
they're confused, can I help them snap out of it? And
yeah,
granted, a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
times these are like mental effects that are
yeah,
magic in nature. So obviously, the magic is more powerful. But if there's a chance, if someone is taking their time to try to like help,
yeah.
I think you
I
should
think that
reward
is
that.
100% reasonable. And if somebody had tried that in our game, which nobody did,
They were too busy. They had two
they
other,
were too busy
the rest of our
fighting.
party. They were too busy
Yeah,
trying to
I know.
fight, and because all of our die rolls were
Yes.
terrible for that first fight, it was taking forever.
Yeah,
So they were
it's
just if they had put down, one of those or
one
both
for
of
the
those other two, so they could have come over and helped one of us, right? Like, but
yeah, as
it
Stephanie
was
liked
just a bad night.
to joke, we're playing roll 6, not roll 20.
Right,
So
exactly. She was not rolling over a 5
no, maybe
for a
Foundry would be
while.
better. I don't know.
I don't I don't know if that changes the probability of the dice.
Yeah, well, we would have like everybody on roll 20 have a bunch of those rolls, and people would say, you know what, the randomizer's messed up. Everybody leave and rejoin, and it would be all fine. But it's like a mental thing, right? I mean, it
It's
should
definitely
all
a mental
be
thing.
all be
It's like taking your dice and putting them in timeout or microwave them or
yes.
whatever you do when you have a bunch of bad
Oh
rolls.
no,
It's
no.
all
Like when this die is rolling bad, yeah, you got to grab the better
you
ones
gotta grab another
always.
one. I do it all the time. I know it's bunk, but I do it myself when I have a lot of dice and nearby. I'm like, this D2. We're all like, yeah. Um, Another thing that you could house rule too is to have a little bit of at these higher levels, you kind of do have a lot of resolve points that might be flying
Right.
around that you might not have uses for. Um, and check out Starfinder Hands next month, which does have extra uses for resolve points, which I don't know specifically what they are. So if I'm saying something now that it's in that book, it's not because I
Yeah.
know what's in that book. It's just because I
Yeah.
know something I thought of. It's just that you can have them spend them like hero points for certain conditions. I wouldn't say like all the time for every, but like in a saving throw situation, or in that sort of like, oh, you're making the second saving throw to snap out of it. If you do badly, I want to spend a resolve point to roll that again because I'm using my resolve to
Right.
try to snap out of this, right? Like it makes sense. So that's another thing you can house roll if you want to just say
Yeah.
spend
There's
a point.
special abilities that say you can spend a resolve to reroll.
That's true.
I would say as a house rule, just because otherwise, why would anybody take those feats, right? Their
Yeah,
feats and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Just say it's double or triple or quadruple, right? You spend 4 resolve,
Yeah, there you go.
so it's, something that's like, yeah, you have a bunch, but, you spent 4 of them just to get out of this, and there's no telling it's gonna
What's gonna
work.
happen? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you'd have to be careful to weight
No,
that
I agree.
properly.
I agree. I would say two, but
Yeah,
then again, depending on how many resolve points get floated, how high a level you are.
right.
But yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to not undercut other abilities that exist that people spend their character resources on. Um, the other sort of like drastic house rule would be that anytime there's an effect like this that is in minute or minutes length, is to reduce the length of that into like to a D4 rounds or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I agree, and
Yeah.
and that's actually what I did. I don't know if you noticed
Oh,
that.
I knew it wasn't. You said minute
Yeah,
at one point, and it was like
yeah,
4 rounds later. And I was like, that
yeah,
wasn't a minute,
yeah,
but
it's
I
like,
guess John's being
it was
nice,
too
so I'm
long.
not going to say anything.
Yeah, no, it was like, no, this goes tens of rounds, everybody could be dead, and that would be tough. So, I just pretended time went by really fast. So
Nevertheless, I still didn't get back to. I got my guns back, and then the fight was over. So in the end, everything was fine, and everyone started rolling better
right,
after right around when you said, "Oh, you're starting to snap out of it." So
yeah.
it all worked out.
Yeah, no, I think so.
Yeah,
You mentioned something, Starfinder
yeah.
Enhanced,
Hmm.
and, I was thinking that, we should talk about that next episode because
Oh, is it?
it'll be
Yeah.
out
All right.
the day before our next episode goes live.
Okay. Okay.
It says
So
anyway,
the
I'm looking
question
at
is, when we record, will you have a copy of it?
um, I don't know.
Okay.
I
Well,
hope
we'll see what we can
so.
do. We'll see what we can do.
Yes. I've talked to people about that, and I oftentimes get it's, author stuff a little early. It
Hmm,
seems
hmm.
like it depends, I think, on the developer.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, but okay, so I'm gonna tentatively hope that it comes out before, and then I have time to look through everything.
Fair enough.
Uh, yeah.
I need to go through and
Well,
refresh
you could
myself.
be fully prepared though, right? Because you got a copy of it
I
now.
can get a look of it. Yeah, I can get a
All
look
right.
at it for
All right,
sure.
right. And then I'll
Um,
well then you could just talk about it and I could say, "Oh wow, that sounds really cool."
you
Because
could
there's
ask
a
me questions about it, I guess. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually kind of interesting. It was it this past week that uh Polygon. So a
Yeah.
couple like websites out there,
Yeah,
Polygon
yeah.
and Dicebreaker, and probably some others who are getting like
Yeah.
obviously different parts of the book to like sort of preview, talk about. And it was pretty cool that the Polygon article was about the narrative Starship Combat.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
sort
who
of
wrote
saying, hey,
that?
there's oh, it was me. I swear we've said that. And I was like,
I
look at
yeah, we
that.
did.
Oh, this whole
We did.
thing is you did something that So I know
Yeah.
again, I hope people like it.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, like the title that or the subtitle that, article is, "Shortening Starship Combat,"
Yeah,
or
yeah.
so,
Yeah,
which is what it will do. I looked through it really
definitely.
quickly and it looked interesting. So I look forward to seeing it in a bit more depth and
Yeah. Yeah. I should have. Yeah, we should try it out, even just to see how it goes.
oh,
Not
we'll have to
necessarily in
have
our
this. Yeah.
not necessarily in our game, but like at some point,
Well, maybe we should have a game that has Starship Combat so
maybe.
we can do that. I'll tell you that I very often in APs have,
Hmm.
done a narrative, Starship Combat of sorts.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because after we've done a bunch of APs, and after we've done it a couple times, it's like, "Oh, this is just really tying together, going from here to there, and we really just wanted to do the there thing. So
Sure.
how can we
Oh
speed
yeah.
it up?"
Yeah. Definitely, I've sped it up. I know
Yeah.
that at the point where like I would just be like, and they leave.
Yeah.
It needs to be over now. We're all bored of it.
But the flip side, I edited an Intrepid Heroes episode not long ago, and it was
Mm.
2 hours and 45 minutes of Starship combat, one combat.
One
So,
combat.
yes. And it's like, yes,
Yeah.
and I put a warning in there, said, "This is a long Starship combat." So and I think Ryan still listened to it.
Oh, well, good. Good for him.
Yeah, but it's like, when we were doing it, I didn't even notice the time going by because you're just kinda
Well,
doing
that's
stuff and
yeah,
things. But to listen to it, I think is a bit
can get
lengthy.
rough. Yeah.
But we'll have to do the narrative decks.
Sure, yeah, try it out, and see and, when you get your Starfinder in hands after next episode,
Yeah.
those of you out there and you wanna tell me what you think about that
Yeah,
narrative stuff, let me know because
yeah.
I wanna
If
hear
you
it
love it if you
because
love it, tell Jason.
if you hate it,
Tell me.
talk to somebody else. Tell John. Okay, he had nothing to do with it. You can tell him all you want.
Alright. Well, good. Well, I'm excited for that.
Mhm.
It's been over a year waiting.
It has, I know.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, but though this was when it was meant to come out,
I know,
so
I
it
know,
didn't
I
get
know.
pushed back like Skyward Stars and Mechageddon kinda got pushed around because
Mhm.
of all the, remaster stuff. This was when it was meant to come out. It was just written a year in advance, or
Yeah,
more
it's
so, yeah,
it's amazing how long those, lead times have to be for projects. That's kinda
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of it because it was a very mechanics-heavy book, so there was a
yes.
lot of, scheduling, trying to make sure there was enough time to develop all the guts of the enhanced classes and things like new resolve point uses and narrative
Right.
starship combat and other fiddly bits.
Well, it'll be exciting to see.
Yeah, I want to take a look at it again. I feel like I may have flipped through it a couple months ago, but now I'll flip through it again when we're going to talk about it in depth.
Okay. I will hopefully have it to flip through as well.
Sure,
So
fingers crossed.
oh, you know what?
What?
I just noticed something here. I might actually have it already.
All right, is it in
Well,
your
because
Paizo
I'm looking on
downloads?
I'm logged in, it says, "No, you purchased this product Thursday." Um,
Oh, maybe they just put it in your account,
yeah.
in your library.
Well, I bought it anyway. Know if it means it's shipped.
Ooh. Oh, you're
Let's
talking
go.
about the physical copy. Mm.
Right, right. So usually when it ships, I get the PDF.
Okay. Fair.
So, that's what I need to know. If I already bought it, usually that means they shipped it already. Alright, I know this is not very exciting stuff here. What do I have?
We gotta know. I'm on tenterhooks.
Alright.
If only I knew what tenterhooks were.
I did not I don't have it yet.
Okay.
Not there
I'm
yet.
sure you'll have it before the next few
Yeah,
days.
if they charge me, usually they shipped it, and that means I should
Yeah.
have it soon. Cool. I'm excited.
Good. Cool.
Well, Jason, it's great, catching up with you.
Yeah. Great talking with you.
I'm John.
And I'm Jason, and this has been Digital Divination.